Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this next section of our virtual convention. A few months back, I was asked if I would run a session specifically for quartets. That's where sort of my main passion lies in barbershop singing. And absolutely, I couldn't wait to get involved and run a Sunday morning education session. It was a bit of a shock, obviously, when we all got locked down, quite rightly, to keep us all safe. But yeah, it makes this a very different experience. So we're going to have a go at running the same session. Hopefully it's just as informative. If anybody has any questions that they want to send through to me after the session, absolutely feel free to either contact me via Facebook or via email. So you can contact us at nightfallquartet@yahoo.com. So yeah, feel free to send any questions in. What I'm going to do is try and share a few slides and some pictures and some stories about Nightfall's journey over the past, well, the 12 months leading up to convention last year. So hopefully you find this informative. And there's a few funny stories, so hopefully there's a few laughs in there as well. So let's have a go and see if I can share a few pictures with you. So here we go. We wanted to call this session Planning for Success with Nightfall. We've always believed that teamwork makes the dream work, and it absolutely did for us in 2019. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Emma Rollson. I sing tenor with Nightfall. I've been a Region 31 member since I was 15 years old. And I now sing with the Heartbeat Chorus as well. So last year was particularly special for me. Obviously winning with the quartet and with the chorus was more than a dream come true. I don't think many people have managed that feat over the Region 31 history, but it was just amazing. In my non-barbershop life, I am a quality manager and a project manager with Boots. So work on lots of exciting things like Number 7, Sultan Botanics. And I'm also a mother of two. I have two little children at home as well that are driving me crazy right now in lockdown. But yeah, lovely to have them around, and they love barbershop as well. So hopefully, you never know, in a few years' time, we might have another little girl singing tenor. We'll see. So a lot of people asked us last year, what did Nightfall do differently? What was the difference compared to maybe when I've sung with other quartets over the years? And the main thing was definitely the planning. When Nightfall first started out, Ros lived down in London and the rest of us were up north. So the planning was absolutely crucial for us. When you're spending 6 hours of a weekend driving across the country to quartet rehearsal, it was absolutely critical that we didn't waste any of that time. So yeah, the planning that we did covered so many different aspects. It was more than just writing a rehearsal plan. So we're going to go through just a few of the things that we actually planned for through the year and through the cycle. So what did we plan? We planned our rehearsals, we planned what music we were going to sing, what technology we would use. We planned for convention in terms of logistics, obviously planning for contest, what songs we were going to sing and that kind of thing. The outfit was a big one for Nightfall. We must have tried on about 15 different dresses before we settled on one. So the dress was important, and also we did some quite in-depth mental preparation as well. So why did we do all that planning and on all those different aspects? Well, we wanted to be prepared for anything that could be thrown our way. We wanted nothing to be a surprise through that contest weekend and on our run up to contest as well. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to run through all these different items and try and give you a few hints and tips along the way. So first of all, technology. There's all sorts of different technologies there available for us to use now, and it can get quite complicated. When we first started out, we had things in Dropbox, we had things in Google Drive, and often we were going, where did we put this and where did we put that? So absolutely, picking which platforms you intend to use is a great starting point. So personally, we go with Google Drive to store all our documentation. So there's our music on there, our copyright information. We have things like a calendar so that we can put all our availability in. So when it comes to actually scheduling rehearsals, we can go in the calendar and see straight away where somebody's busy and somebody's not. We're obviously negotiating around 3 different chorus rehearsals. a few different quartet rehearsals. Obviously, Ros sings with Scandal, so they have quite a lot of rehearsal time as well. With them being a long-distance quartet, it will take up an entire weekend of rehearsal for them too. Alex is a big sailor, so she has lots of sailing events and things that she likes to get out and do. So yeah, there's loads of other things that impact in terms of being able to actually schedule our rehearsals. So all that information is all in Google Drive. I think there's also a list of our eating likes and dislikes as well. All helpful, handy things to have when you're staying at each other's houses for rehearsals. One of the main things we use a lot is WhatsApp. So we have a WhatsApp group. One of the things that we found really interesting with WhatsApp was obviously we chat a lot, you know. There's things like, oh, I found this dress, look at this link, or oh, I found this good song, or, you know, here's a YouTube link, and all these kind of things. And actually the really important stuff, like you need to be at this address for this show at this time, that was all getting lost, completely lost. So we actually now have Nightfall Chat and Nightfall Business. So if anything is business related, things like I have registered us for contest will go into Nightfall Business Chat so that everybody knows they're all up to date with the admin. And then we have the chat function where we can just go ahead and ask each other questions and catch up and stay connected. More recently, we've used Zoom a lot more. So after, obviously, we can't get together anymore after lockdown. So yeah, we've used Zoom for our online rehearsing. It's a little bit more easy to use in terms of we can just, three of us can mute and one of us can be on and we can duet along with that person. So we were able to do some sort of duetting kind of without being able to hear everything, which has been really good. We found Zoom was really good for that compared to WhatsApp chat. Yeah, so we tend to go for Zoom for that sort of thing, but WhatsApp chat just to keep in touch and having a quick call and catch up in a cuppa. We have, in terms of social media, we have a Facebook platform. We don't tend to use Instagram. I don't think any of us are big Instagram users, but we all use Facebook. So we decided that Facebook was a platform for us. I know some quartets use both. It's just, we prefer to just have one platform, and it's one thing to maintain. Otherwise, I think I'd just forget, if I'm honest. And then we have Yahoo for our specific quartet email account. So the main things, once you obviously decided what you're going to use, is what's going to go where. So as I said earlier, things like Google Drive is where we store all our documentation. We tend not to store anything in WhatsApp or through chat functions just because they get lost, but things like links to videos and stuff sit very easily in WhatsApp, and you can actually search for them through your chat history. So yeah, really useful. And then in terms of who looks after it, one of the things again that we found very quickly was there is actually a lot of administration work that goes into running a quartet. So we tend to split things up between us. So myself, I will do things like I look after the bank account, so therefore it makes sense for me to do things like the quartet registrations with Sweet Adelines and with the region, enter us for contests and book hotels, that sort of thing. Claire is a bit of a whiz, so she is actually able to do all our copyright stuff. So once I've purchased music and popped it into Google Drive, she can then go off and sort all the copyright stuff, and I do not envy her at all. The people that do the copyright stuff shouldn't be making the brews at rehearsal, because that's one heck of a job. Ros has a wonderful job as an events planner for a charity, so we absolutely utilised those skills when it came to running a show in September. Ros pretty much single-handedly planned the whole thing, and to be honest, I was glad of it, because that's not my forte at all. In terms of planning and organisation, absolutely I was there, but yeah, in terms of creating an event and all the public licensing and all the other things that go along with that, she was really great at doing that stuff. So we all kind of take different sections of things to look after, and we always sort of say to Alex is probably the least organised of the four of us. She won't mind me saying that, but as long as we sort of tell her where she needs to be and when, she turns up and she absolutely does her thing. So we always say Alex's responsibility is to be the lead, and that's all we want her to do, is to be fabulous. So that's technology. So the next thing is planning rehearsals. We often try to plan in rehearsal video calls beforehand. So Claire is usually the more organised one, and we'll be sat there with a pen and paper at the same time, and we'll go through what what the aim is for that rehearsal. So it might be that we've picked up some new songs we want to work on. It might be that we're preparing for contest and need to do those duets, trios, and work any difficult passages. It might be that we have a coach and we want to plan what we're going to do with that coach. We try to never go into a quartet rehearsal not knowing what we want to achieve. Otherwise, we find we end up just sitting and chatting when we're not that productive. So yeah, really planning through sort of, day one, what we're going to do in the morning, what we're going to do in the afternoon, day two, in the morning and the afternoon, starts and finish times, location, all these things filter into our pre-rehearsal planning. And it might be that I have some documentation I maybe need them to sign, so we'll note down as well that I'll bring that, and we need to make sure we fill that in when we're having tea break or lunch or something like that. So we tend to try and fit the admin stuff around our actual rehearsal time rather than in it. So in terms of when we're at rehearsal, what planning do we do when we're at rehearsal? So it might be that we've picked up a new song for contest, and we've done a certain amount of work through it, and we might get to a point where we say, okay, we really need to now start thinking about doing some real in-depth duets, or we need to work through the tricky passages, or we need to book some coaching in, and those things are things that we maybe can't achieve in that rehearsal. So what we'll do is note them down and make sure that at the next rehearsal they get fed into the rehearsal plan, and we can cover all that stuff off. Sometimes you will decide in a rehearsal that actually you've gone beyond where your plan is and you have the time to do that extra stuff, and that's great, just get it done. But where you don't, just make sure that you make a note so that you don't forget and miss that whole section out. I think it's often, we sometimes find this really hard grunt work a bit off-putting, and it can be very, very draining. You're asking two people of your quartet to sing for considerable lengths of time. Sometimes the tenor always gets left till last, so I get to sit there and coach the rest of my quartet, which is wonderful. But yeah, it can be really draining, and I find especially on the lead and bass, because baritones and tenors, we just want to duet with everybody else and not each other. Baritone and tenor duets, not my favourite at all. But yeah, singing with the bass and finding those octaves, or singing with the lead and finding those clashes, or those points where maybe I was singing below Alex and I needed to sing in a different way, and all those things come out of duets. So yeah, our in rehearsal planning actually means that we don't miss all that stuff out just because it's maybe not as fun as singing as a four. Post rehearsal, we'll always plan to have some post rehearsal personal work. So each of us individually has areas that we want to improve on our singing. So for example, one of mine last year was to definitely increase the amount of consonants in my singing. Nightfall, we always get told we're very good at the vowel to vowel stuff, but sometimes those consonants get a little bit lost, as obviously we try to miss out as many double S's and double T's and those kind of things as possible. And what it's resulted in with me is I then just don't put any in, or I put very minimal amounts in. So that was, for example, one of the things that I can take away and work on personally at home. So yeah, we've all got something different that we work on, but it's making us individually better singers, so that when we come back together as a four, the quartet is again at that next higher level by the time we come back together. So that's kind of what we do in terms of pre-rehearsal, at rehearsal, and then post-rehearsal personal stuff. There'll always be things like we'll record at rehearsal, and we'll say that was a really good take, and I'll sing along with that one at home. So it's specifically if we've made changes to maybe a breathing pattern or something like that. Those recordings are really good for us to be able to sing along at home, and that also goes into that post-rehearsal work. So next, music. So Nightfall very quickly learned that we love a ballad. So whenever we said, oh, let's pick some new music, I want to sing some new stuff, everybody came back with a ballad. And you can't, as lovely as it would be, you can't sing ballads to an audience all night. They'd either fall asleep or, they'd be thinking, go on, pick it up. So we created this sort of very short method. So if you said, we need a new song, so what's it going to be? Do we need a ballad or do we need an up-tempo? So quickly you manage to differentiate between what you're actually going to pick and what you have too much of. what is the song's purpose? So again, it may be that actually we need a new contest up tune, or it could be actually we need some fun stuff, some stuff that's maybe not so difficult, that we want to put into our repertoire. So then we look at, well, what kind of song we'll be looking for? So it may be that we want something up tempo, something non-contest, and it might be that actually we say, oh, we want a rhythm song, we want something with a good beat that people can tap their foot along to. It might be that you have something like a wedding coming up and you say, actually, we want a really nice message song for a wedding, for example. Or it might be that you want to feature a specific voice in your quartet. So recently we picked up a new song, and it was one that Claire just went, hang on a minute, this is like my anthem, this is my song, I really want to sing the lead. So I Won't Say I'm in Love became Claire's feature. It wasn't necessarily a song that was written for the melody to be in the baritone line, but it was one where we just swapped some parts over and Claire took the melody. A nice exercise, I think, for any quartet to sort of stretch yourselves as a singer, and it gives it gave Alex a chance to sing baritone for a song, which was great, and she absolutely loves it. So likewise, I'm sure if I wanted to take a melody, she would be willing to sing the tenor too. Who knows? She's got a remarkable range, so I'll let her crack on. She can take the tenor for a line, and I'll have a melody. One of the other things we often have is a stretching song. So we actually have a couple of songs in our repertoire that we know are beyond our capabilities currently, but we've learned them, and we pull them out of the folder every once in a while and just give them a little airing and see how they feel. The hope then is that eventually we'll be at a point where those songs will be well within our capability and we can actually pull them into our contest repertoire. One thing that's interesting about that is that as we've gone along our path and our journey, when we pull those songs back out, we find different things crop up as issues. So it might be that actually breath support could have been an issue a while back, and we go, oh, I don't have that issue anymore. But now all of a sudden I have an issue with my placement at this section of the song. So you can start to see where things may be workable and it's ready to pull that song out, or maybe you need to still put it back in the folder and give it another 6 months and then try it again. The beauty of this, of course, is that you have some music then in a folder that you know, and you haven't got to spend that time learning. As soon as it becomes something that is within your ability and your capability, you can just pull that song out and start working it, which I think is brilliant. So hopefully that helps with some kind of decision-making process in terms of picking music. That's often things that people say, how do I pick music for my group? Well, if you can follow this, it might start to help you shape your repertoire a little bit more. So next, the dress. Nightfall must have tried on about 15 dresses for contest. I think it's really, really difficult. It's such a challenge. We have varying styles and tastes. We're all different shapes, we're all different heights. Some of us like flat shoes, some of us like heels. Absolutely advocate wearing flat shoes. It's better for your singing posture, so we'll leave that one there. Flat shoes where possible, ladies. Wear the heels in the bar, flat shoes for contest. One of the things that Nightfall looked at was, what message do we want to send with our look? We're not a funky quartet like Fortuity are, and equally we're kind of laid back and chilled, really. Those kind of people. So we said, what do we want the look to be when we walk on stage? What do we want people to think? And the one word that resonated with all of us was elegance. We wanted to be elegant when we walked on stage. So yeah, there was lots and lots of dresses that we tried on, obviously all floor length. We decided that navy blue would be the colour, just like a night sky. And yeah, once we picked this dress and we put it on, and you just know when you put on the right dress, it's a bit like wearing a wedding dress. When you find the right one, you just know. And interestingly, when we were at International, one of the showmanship judges actually wrote on our score sheet, one of the first things that was there on the score sheet when we looked down was "Elegance walks on stage." And at that point, we knew that this dress was absolutely the right choice for us at this moment in time. So don't underestimate spending that time and trying on lots of things. There's lots of returns you've got to do, but that's fine. Take the time to really pick the right outfit for you. Really, we should have looked at something that didn't require ironing every time you get it out of the bag. But you know, it was worth it. It looks great and we love it. So absolutely spend the time on picking your outfit. Nightfall have so many dresses, it's ridiculous, really. So many outfits. But it means that, you know, we have the ability to swap and change based on what event we're going to. So if it's a small show, it might be that we wear our shorter black dresses. If it's a full evening dinner type show, we would wear the long navy blue. And if it's something less formal, we've got a couple of different tops and jeans and jackets and cardigans and all sorts of things, so we can mix and match our outfits, which is really great. So definitely think about your audience, think about what events you're going to, and just try and dress within your brand, and in the right style for that event that you're going to. So next, convention prep. This was the big one. So planning for all eventualities is tricky. In February, before contest, I actually went into hospital and had a tonsillectomy. And that's not something that we'd kind of planned for. We knew that it might be something that happened. We didn't think it would happen in February before contest. I was hoping it would be done before Christmas. But it's one of those things that I said, you know, I've waited 8 months for my appointment. I've got to go. I've got to do it. It's sore. It hurts. And I actually had a small growth that needed removing from my tonsil. There was a cyst there. So yeah, it made the pre-contest preparations quite tricky. Luckily, it just so happened that it fell that my operation was a week after one rehearsal, and we then had a 6-week break before the next rehearsal, which I was really, really glad of. Not only did I have the operation, I then had quite a nasty infection a week after. But yeah, I needed to have IV antibiotics and all sorts of things in hospital. That was quite scary. And it's one of those things where emotionally and mentally, I really had to pull myself through. You know, I don't know what my voice is going to be like. Am I going to be able to sing? Will I even still be a tenor? I could come out of this bass. You know, it was terrifying, absolutely terrifying. But actually, 6 weeks after my operation, we got together at rehearsal. In between that time, I'd taken a lot of rest, and then I'd had a few wonderful friends send me things through. So Verian from Fortuity sent me some gentle warm-up exercises for people who have maybe had vocal issues or illness, which was really helpful. Sort of really gentle exercises to ease me back in, lots of bubbling, humming, those kind of things. And Nikki Salt was great in terms of, she's gone through this a couple of times, I believe, and in terms of, you know, taking real care of myself and not pushing myself too quickly, and that stuff was absolutely welcome advice. It really was, because all you want to do as a singer after something like that is see if your voice works. But I was really glad that I took the time and waited, because that 6-week rehearsal was actually one of our first times we were going to go and sing for one of our choruses. So we were at Claire's house, and Ignite were having their weekend rehearsal. And Nikki was actually there as their coach as well, so she'd obviously helped me through all this trauma. And then we went and sang for the chorus, and she was there as well, which was lovely. Managed to sing the 2 songs. My voice didn't necessarily do what my brain was telling it to do all the way through, but I made it through those 2 songs. And that just reassured me that actually you can sing, you are still a tenor. And even though my voice is even deeper speaking wise than it was before, my range is actually bigger than it was before, which is really interesting. But yeah, the response that we got from the chorus was so reassuring that we can do this as a 4. You know, I'd got the support of my girls, we got the support of the chorus, and it was really important for us to go and sing for our choruses. So after we'd sung for Ignite, in those few months running up to contest, we also sang for Sheffield Harmony and for Hallmark of Harmony. And then the Wednesday before, literally the Wednesday before contest, so like the night before we were due to travel to Cardiff, we went and sang for Heartbeat. And you know, some of these dress rehearsals, if you like, were really successful, and some we came away and went, oh, that was awful. but it's all part of that preparation and that process. You know, you're not going to get everything 100% right 100% of the time, and that's absolutely fine. So fast forward a couple of days, and what we tended to do, you'll see here, is our Friday plan. So we would have a whole schedule for the weekend, including things like what time we were going to arrive, what the address of our apartment was. We always tend to stay somewhere like an Airbnb if possible. We like to have what we call the Nightfall bubble, which means that we can shut ourselves off from the world if we need to. There's not all those external distractions. We can eat what we plan to eat. And there's things like warm-ups and that kind of thing that maybe you want to start doing pretty early in the morning, and you don't necessarily want to wake up your next door neighbour in a hotel. So we found Airbnbs really work for us. And this is the kind of, you can see here, the kind of list that we would have for a contest day. So this is our exact plan from last year. We actually had to schedule in an awful lot of hair and makeup time, purely because Roz actually did not only her own hair, but she put mine and Alex's hair up as well. So we had like a dummy run a month before, where she trialed a few things, and my hair is really thick. I mean, right now I could do with a haircut. But yeah, you know, we had to trial those sorts of things as well. So even the things that you might not think about, we trialed everything. But yeah, we had to put extra hair and makeup time in purely for Roz to be able to have the time to put our hair up. You know, you'll have seen us at the Quartet briefing. You know, I was doing people's eyeshadow and that sort of thing in the briefing because we would have run out of time otherwise. But we tended to split things up. So we did some warm-up and singing. We did some stretching in the morning, which was really quite interesting. Another little story for you. I decided to Google early morning stretchers on YouTube. And there was a lovely little Thai lady that was doing some yoga style stretching, and I thought, this is good. Yeah, we can do this in the morning. Well, I'm not joking. It was the most strenuous thing I think I've ever looked at, but we were in absolute hysterics. So we started off the day in a really positive way, even though it wasn't the stretching I had in mind. And that just showed me that when I go off piste and have a great idea, not always the best one, but it did end in some hilarity. So yeah, we'll take that. But we schedule so many things in, things like briefing and walk-ons. We scheduled in walking time between our apartment and the convention centre. One of the things you'll see there at 4:20 p.m. is a faffy panic. So that is something that we have to plan in. We know it's going to happen. So things like, have I got my water? Do I need a wee? Have I got everything? Have we all got earrings in? Are they the right ones? All those kind of things, those little panic moments, we knew were going to happen. So we scheduled in 10 minutes for that to happen. One of the things we also scheduled in was the taxi run. So there was no way, after spending all this time doing our hair and makeup, that if it was raining, I was going to run. That was a no-go. So we scheduled in enough time for the taxi to be able to go all the way around the block should we need to. We were only about a 5-minute walk away from the convention centre, but we scheduled in that as a just in case. Again, we needed to know things like, when is my last opportunity to use the loo? That was absolutely critical for us. We're always those kind of nervous bathroom break types. So yeah, scheduling that in was really important for us. And then obviously you'll see pizza and prosecco right at the end there. I think we actually upgraded. It was pizza and champagne by the end of it. But yeah, you know, we need to know when we're going to eat. These convention weekends can be so hard going that actually sometimes you can forget to eat, and that's really not great for us. So absolutely, we have one of these for every day. With us having chorus rehearsals and stuff as well, we put on there what time our chorus rehearsals were, just so that we've got another check-in. We knew where each other was on convention weekend. So mental health, this is one of the really big things that we worked on. We shared things like what the songs mean to us in quite an in-depth way. So, you know, we talk about the message of a song, and it might be, you know, I loved him and he didn't love me back, for example. I think we've all probably had that unrequited love moment in our lives. And we were able to share our stories and be quite personal about what that meant to us. And we had that trust with each other that those experiences and those stories would only ever stay within our quartet. So knowing that you really have that support network there, both from your quartet, and trusting yourself that it's okay to be vulnerable and let that stuff out as well. I think sometimes we don't always want to go there, but we did, and it made such a difference to our performance. Sharing our previous experiences, so we went through sort of how we feel and how we react when we're on stage or backstage. So for me, I often, if my hands get cold, it makes me shiver. And I learnt this over many years of quartetting, that actually, if I'm stood backstage and I'm starting to feel cold, rubbing my hands together is actually the thing that I need to do to keep myself warm and distract myself from the fact I'm feeling cold. Some of those backstage areas can be quite chilly. So yeah, I wanted to warn the quartet that there is sort of this nervous energy, hand rubbing happening, and that it's absolutely fine. Some of us want some quiet time, and some of us are quite energetic when it comes to dealing with nerves, and knowing how each of you is, I think is really important. False starts, yeah, we practiced a couple. We never scheduled them in to say, right, we're going to practice false starts, but we did. Every now and again, one of us would be like, nope, stop, you know, we'd practice that and not actually using words so that we didn't risk any disqualification or anything like that. Walk-ons, this was an interesting one. We knew we had 2 minutes and we wanted to make the most of that 2 minutes. We actually planned our walk-on and rehearsed our walk-on. A lot of people said how amazed they were with how much singing we did in our walk-on. At the end of the day, we wanted to sing as much as possible on that stage and try some of the bigger parts of the song out, so we knew how they felt in that room. And that was a really important thing for us. So we didn't spend time, you know, we checked how far apart we were on the stage, sort of as a left to right look. We knew where we wanted our focal point to be in terms of the audience perspective, before we even got on that stage. We did that on the floor in front of the stage while other things were going on. External distractions, there's always going to be some. There's always going to be some. We did things like singing while my kids were around and seeing if we could stay focused, because they're the biggest distraction anyone could possibly wish to have, you know, a 2 and a 3-year-old running around. One of the other things was preparing for every possible outcome. So we sort of said, how are we going to feel if we bomb? Like, so what if something goes really wrong, we come last? How's that going to feel? You know, yes, we'd be disappointed, but how are we going to deal with that? How are we going to feel if we come in the top 10 or the top 5? Or how are we going to feel irrespective of the result if we feel like, actually, I've not done my best? How do you handle that? And we quickly established the Nightfall circle. So there's lots of, obviously we've already mentioned external distractions, but when you're at contest, there'll be things that happen, like people want to come and wish you well and wish you good luck and stuff. And actually we stood in a very tight circle, literally shoulder to shoulder. And people knew from that we were obviously trying to stay within our focus zone. It's not that we don't want to obviously speak to people and say hi and that kind of thing, but when you need to stay focused, when you've worked so hard, we needed that. We needed to stay focused in that moment. So yeah, having that little square was really, really useful for us. And knowing your support network. So obviously I've talked about Nikki and Verian. They were probably 2 of my biggest support network people on the run up to contest, both in mental health and preparation and vocal health. So it's really important to know who you might be able to call on. You know, I'd often send Verian a message going, oh, I had a nightmare. This happened in my nightmare. She'd be like, calm down, 6 weeks to go yet, you'll be fine. And then one of the things that I found on the internet as I was looking for positive affirmations and things like that was this: be a pineapple, stand tall, wear a crown, and be sweet on the inside. So that's what we always endeavour to try and be. So I'm going to go with the hashtag be a pineapple. So when it comes to contest weekend, there really is nothing left to do except relax and enjoy the moment, right? That wasn't necessarily the case for us. So another little story here. On our way down to Cardiff, my car broke down on the M5. And I want to say, we pulled up to, you'll see the picture here, like the fanciest services you could ever wish to stop at. I mean, it was lovely. But did I want to spend that many hours there? Probably not. I think it was like 5 or 8 hours late or something we were by the time we got to Cardiff. And I had like everybody's dinner in the car because I'd got the cool box with all the food in. And yeah, absolutely, it was chaos, absolute chaos. But luckily, everybody else around me stayed remarkably calm as I was freaking out about the fact that it was my car that had broken down and I was the reason we were going to be late. We took it as a sign that we'd had all the bad luck we could possibly have, and we can continue to enjoy the weekend. So I did some sort of calming meditation, put my steamer on and tried to relax that evening, because the Thursday drive down to Cardiff was just horrendous. So I really took the time to try and calm down again and get back into the moment so that I could enjoy the contest weekend. One of the amazing things that we also did on contest morning was we had a bag from Heartbeat Chorus that had all different cards and treats and sweets and good luck messages and wishes and all sorts of things in there. And it was just so lovely to sit there as a quartet and sit and read all these messages of love and good wishes. And there was one thing that we received, which was a spell for good luck and good wishes. And we actually read it through and we followed it. And we're absolutely sure that was part of it. We were meant to do that. That was part of our destiny. So this is pretty much it. This is where we get to, is contest weekend, and what a weekend it was. An absolute dream come true. It wasn't in the plan to win. Our plan was to go and put our best on stage and see what happened, and see where we came in the league table, if you will. But we just had such a fantastic weekend. We were so chilled. We were so happy to be with each other and to have fun with each other, that there really was nothing else left to do but to really enjoy the moment and enjoy singing our contest set. I don't think I've ever come off stage so happy as I did at contest last year, and all I can wish is that when we do get back together and we have the contest next year, that every single one of you crossing that stage just go and enjoy it. You do all the hard work up front and trust in yourselves that hard work will see you through. And as much as obviously we want to be as high in the league tables as we possibly can, as long as we're enjoying it, that's the main thing. And we have one heck of a party afterwards, and I'm sure next year will be no exception. So I hope you've enjoyed this session. And as I say, if you've got any questions at all, feel free to fire them through. Or if you want any of the templates or things that we use, just give me a shout and I'll send them through to you. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your morning.